going on? Merry Christmas Eve. Welcome back to the show. How's everyone doing out there? Merry Christmas Eve. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy 24th of December. If I missed your holiday, I apologize, but I want you to know that you are heard, and I believe in your holiday, and I believe in whatever celebration you get down with out there. But happy holidays, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Hope everyone's having a good December. I hope everybody is finishing up everything that they wanted to get done for 2019. I hope all of us got our shopping in. I hope everyone's ready to just kick it when the 25th of December comes around and we don't have to run around anywhere and the chaos is over. We're out of the mall and we're ready to just chill out with the family and with our loved ones. Because I can tell you for sure that I did not do that. I fucked up, waited way too long to get gifts, and because of that, I think my gifts this year are average at best, but the love is there. The love for Christmas is there, and the love for everybody that I have in my life is there, and I'm ready for it. And the older I get, the more I realize how important the holidays are. Not for the gifting, and I might be a little old to be saying this, but the older I get, the more I realize how important it is to just have family there and have everybody that you love around and to just be with everybody and how fucking incredible that is and how lucky we are to celebrate this holiday. But growing up Catholic, man, I was telling this to people in the car yesterday as I went over to my grandmother's house to make cookies. I was hanging out at my grandmother's house, and I'm asking her about, like, her kids and stuff, and so I asked her about my father. I'm like, so how was my dad when he was a young kid? And I was like, so how was Robert? She's like, all my kids were all special, and she's describing all the kids. I'm like, what about my dad? She's like, he's still developing. And I thought about that, and I was like, damn, that's true, right? I mean, I've been sleeping on it, and I've really been thinking hard on it. Someone's still developing, and you hear that from your grandmother, who's my dad's mother, and it's interesting, right? Because, there's a point in everybody's life where we feel like we are all set, and we know everything that we need to know, and we feel like nothing else can really come across us, or we don't know how to deal with it, and we are constantly in this mindset that we know everything and we're good. We're all set, and the world can throw anything it wants at us, and we're straight. We don't have to worry about it. But to hear my grandmother say that, who I think she's like, I don't know, between 65 to 82, around that age. I'm not too sure. In my head, they're always the same age. But she said he's still developing. And it was hilarious at first. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world that my dad, who's a full-grown man, who's 52 years old, still developing. But it's true, right? The older we get, the more we realize, the more we think, and the more we want to believe that we have shit figured out, that we have everything good, and we're all set to take on the world. But we're not, and I don't think we ever will be, and I think we're constantly learning and experiencing events. And we're constantly falling and getting up, and we always are pushing forward and figuring things out along the way, having things that we thought were true just turn out to be false. But we're slinging cookies, and it was just fun, and it was hanging out with the family, and shit like that. Stuff that I'm finally starting to figure out is important in life. And I've always wanted to believe that I knew that. I always wanted to believe that the important things in life are family. But you get so busy, you get so busy with life, and you get so busy with events, and you get so busy with the calendar, and you're looking forward to like these specific dates on your calendar. But these dates are interesting, but they're just, they're interesting because they're events that you're looking forward to. But then between now and the next event, those days seem like they don't mean much. And then these holidays come around, and you look forward to Christmas, but every day leading up to Christmas, if you just treated every day like Christmas and you were so excited for each day, it's almost like life would just be easier, and it would be more fun to live in, and every day you get out would just be a new experience. And it's something that I've really been trying to do, and it's something that I feel like I finally have been able to wrap my head around. But yeah, man, Santa Claus is coming, and the holidays are coming, and they're coming down to an end. And Christmas Eve is a good time to just be with family. Just a good time. Everyone's off. Everybody's in a good mood. Everyone's hanging out, and the idea of it is supposed to be just a time where there's no issues with anybody. Everything's okay. Everything's relaxed, and everything is just the way it's supposed to be, and differences are supposed to be pushed off to the side, and happiness is supposed to be number one. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to have a life where I can experience that. I'm allowed to experience that. I'm allowed to just have a good time with people that I care about, to have a good time with people that that care about me. And I think so much of this world is just moving at such a constant pace that we forget that we really start running away from the parts of life that are supposed to bring us the most joy. We start finding a selfish it gets a point in life where you start trying to check off all the boxes for yourself. You start trying to get the career that you wanted. You start trying to get the grades that you wanted. You start trying to start the business that you wanted for so long. And, and all these things bring you joy in different ways, different kinds of joy. And all these events are great, right? They build a sense of confidence, and they build a sense of ego, and they make you feel good about yourself, and they make you feel like you're accomplishing something. But then you still have that emptiness in you, and you don't know what that is, and you're always so confused why you feel empty after you just, closed a huge business deal, you just signed a new contract, or whatever it is, or you just got a new pay raise, or you just got a new promotion, you just graduated with all A's, and you have this sense of just extreme excitement, and you're so confused when it fades, and you don't understand why it fades. And it's confusing, right? And then instead of trying to figure out why it faded so quick, instead of that, you try to just find that excitement again. You try to find that peak point again. So you don't have to live in that world of disappointment, emptiness, shallowness, or the void. You want to avoid the void. You want to get rid of the void. So you live a life where you're just trying to constantly chase the peaks, the peaks, and So you find yourself in a game where it's just peaks and valleys, not even valleys, but deeper than valleys, like caves, like you're hitting the rock bottom. You're hitting rock bottom and shit. And it's due to the fact that that people don't live their life to find these moments of happiness. These nice balancing moments where it's like if you live a life where you're just constantly trying to reach the top, you can hit the bottom. You're going to go hit the top and you're going to hit the bottom. And that's what's dangerous about that, is that if you really work hard, you will hit the top eventually. As long as you stay in the game long enough, you'll eventually hit the top. But while you're hitting the top and bottom, your base level is not changing. You want that base level to rise and rise and rise. So then when you're hitting the top and the bottom, you can come back to a moderately healthy level of baseline instead of plummeting down and then not being able to find a baseline, and then you get in between the top of the mountain and the bottom of sea level, the ocean floor, that's all anxiety in there, and that's all depression, that's all fear, because you're constantly on this wavelength of going up and down, up and down, up and down, because you can't find balance. There's no medium, there's no outlet for you to just feel like normal. And I think these holidays, when they come around each year, people start, it's almost not long enough for people to really realize, but you feel fulfilled, right? You feel fulfilled. And And it's so crazy because you're saving money all year and you're investing money on year, you're investing into yourself, and then boom, the holidays come around, you're just spending money. You know, you're spending money, right? Something that you may have not always wanted to do. Even the most frugal people, the frugal people that you know, even people who don't have a lot of money, they still spend money, right? They still buy gifts for people. They're still out there spending their time to give back to somebody that they love, you know? And they don't have to, you know, you could all collect and all agree upon on like not buying gifts for each other. And then you could just, you know, save money all holiday and not have to buy anything for anybody. But then you ask yourself why? Why does everyone participate in Christmas? Why does everyone participate in Hanukkah? Why do people participate in these events where you buy back for somebody, you give something back to somebody? And it's because I honestly believe that the value that you get when you give to somebody, when you buy for somebody, when you can see the warmth and the enjoyment that somebody has when they receive a gift, you know, especially a gift that has some thought behind it, which I think is something that I didn't do too well in this year. I bought something, but I don't think it's shipped yet. It should be. I don't know. I'm really excited. Taylor, if you're watching this, it's going to be here soon, and I know you're going to like it once it gets here. Yeah, it's like even when you're somebody who's so frugal, but you still spend around the holidays, and you feel good. You know, you feel good. You just feel safe and you feel balanced. And it's like, that's Christmas, right? That's a holiday. That's a legit holiday when the world just shuts off. You know, the world is like constantly moving and moving and moving and moving and moving, but it slows down eventually, you know? And I think that's the beauty of, Christmas. I think that's the beauty of, having family around you. And I think that's something that we all need to really recognize, and we all need to just chill out and just calm down, man. You know, just need to chill out, and we need to see what's going on around us, and we need to fix the differences that we have with people, and the people that we don't agree with, we have to stop trying to argue with them, and we just need to chill. We all need to just chill the hell out, man. You know, people just need to chill out and experience this world at a slower pace, man. We're all like hyperspeed all the time, man. Throw a Santa hat on, hang out with a fucking slutty Santa Claus, you know? This dude, my man just has the splits wide open on top of Catcher in the Rye, and Robert Sapolsky just chilling up there, just nuts hanging out all over Catcher in the Rye. But he's chilling, dude. You know, my man's just chilling, nuts out, hanging out, you know? He's just chilling. We all just need nuts out, hang out. We all just need to chill out and bro out, you know? Or hyperspeed all the time, man. Or at hyperspeed. Dude, I'm the most guilty of it. I am at hyperspeed all the time. I don't know how to chill out. It's something that I've always struggled with. I've always struggled with just being okay with doing nothing and just relaxing. You know, like I was listening to this podcast, Your Mom's House with Tom Segura. And, 1 second. And they had Bert Kreischer on. Bert Kreischer's talked to him about how he just always on the road. He's always touring. He's always out there doing comedy. He's always out there doing TV shows. Always out there doing this and like weeks on end. And I was like, yeah, of course. You know, I'm watching this. I'm like, yeah, of course you're doing that. You have to, right? Then Tom Segura and his wife, Christina Pazinski, they get on. They're like, Bert, just need to calm down. You know, you just need to chill out. Just like relax. Like you do all this, but you don't ever actually look after it. Like you don't understand why you're doing it all because you never had time to reflect on any of it. And that's like, I could relate to Bert. Like I never have been able to just chill, you know, chill and just enjoy all the things that I'm lucky to have, you know, all the things that I'm lucky to be blessed with and all the things that I have in my life, you know. And it's like I refused for so long to just calm down. And, you know, that's what I'm doing this holidays. I'm just calming down. I'm doing a whole lot of nothing, and I'm just chilling out with the family. You know, making cookies with the family. I'm not working an extra shift because I don't have to. And if I don't have to, I'm not going to. You know, for so many years, I just picked up shifts and worked to like run away from comfort, I refused to be comfort, because in my head, comfort meant laziness, and laziness meant below average. Being below average meant death. And it gets to a point where it's like, no. And that's my issue with like self-help books is I don't like that. I don't like that constant grind, and work. And I get it up to a point, and I get like people saying, you sleep when you die, or like I grind 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. It's like, cool, I get it, but you also will be severely depressed, right? You can't do that. You have to find balance. You have to find some level of enjoyment. You got to find time with yourself. You got to have time with the loved ones around you. You also got to have time to work really hard and enjoy yourself while you're working. But I don't know. That's why I love Christmas. That's why I love the holidays. I love the forced time to just do nothing. I love hanging out with my grandparents. I love listening to stories. I think stories are so, I don't know. They're just so needed to listen to. But dude, this hat I have on, man. This hat, it says my name. I don't think you can see it in the camera. I'm not too sure. It says my name. It has Michael right on it, which is my name. Right there. Got my little ball up top and everything. I don't know when I made this, but I got my hat on. I got my little Christmas dude here. I don't know why he's holding a star, and I don't know why he has the splits going on. It's like a prostitution Santa Claus, but he's hanging out and he's just chilling with me, and I decided to decorate a little bit for the holidays, right, for Christmas. I don't know. Hopefully I did a good job. But I've been reading that book lately. I know I've talked about it a lot on the last podcast. Not as much as I wanted to. But I've been reading, dude, this stuff is so good. It's like this Rockstar Pure Zero, tangerine, mango, guava, and strawberry. But I've been reading this book lately. It's downstairs. NeuroTribe. And it's about the legacy of autism and the future of neurodiversity. So before I read this book, I always had this theory about autism. And the theory I had about autism was it's not offensive. Like, I don't want it to be offensive at all. But I always thought of the way our world has been progressing so rapidly. There almost had to be a spike, and there had to be a quick change in the way that humans interact with each other. The constant commotion all the time, 24/7, text messages coming in, text messages leaving your phone, news updates coming in, machines talking to you, being scanned all the time, just having like airways flow through your brain, like this constant abundance and exposure to the world, right? I mean, everywhere you go, there's always technology somewhere being thrown at you. And I was talking to Taylor about it, and I was like, this doesn't seem right, It's almost like it's like dropping somebody. It would be like watching somebody from the 1600s just dropped in this world and seeing their eyes just like shocked, like, what the hell? Well, that's kind of all of us, because at a biological level, I don't think we're supposed to be living in this world of all this technology everywhere and all these cars that are self-driving and these these busy roads and airplanes flying over our faces and submarines and all this crazy shit all the time. It's just like chaos, and there's a reason why when you do nothing, you feel so relaxed. You're like, whew. It's not even just mental, like physically your body just like shuts down for a second. And I was thinking about it, and I didn't know much about autism. I had a few friends that had Asperger's, and I would always watch my friends, and I would watch the people that my girlfriend would work with. She works with a lot of kids with autism, kids and adults, and I always watched how they were able to just kind of step back from reality. Not by choice, but like just because of their symptoms. Like they just didn't interact with the world like I did. They didn't really have a theory of mind. They didn't think about what other people thought about a situation. They would just say what they thought of the situation with a lack of fear of being ridiculed or a lack of really offending somebody. They would just call the shots the way that they saw the shots. And they had to be away from the environment, right? They had to be in quiet areas sometimes, or they would have tantrums or lose their mind or become violent, and they needed their isolation. They needed their alone time. They had to eat certain things. And I was so intrigued by this. I was like, what is this? Is this like, there's no one in this, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to offend anybody, but no one really knew what it was, right? No one ever really knew what autism is, and no one really still knows what it is. There's different theories about it being like older men's sperm, like older sperm from older men, because autism is so heavily founded in males than females. But no one really knows what it is, and there's a whole myth about it being from vaccines. But I was talking to her. I was like, it's like the rise of autism has slowly been on the up and up and up. And then there's something called technology, and this is when it really clicked in my head. I was like, what the fuck is this? When all this technology really started exploding, you got to a point with evolution where it was natural evolution, right? Natural evolution, and so it took time, thousands of years, and then you hit a point where like the water was so polluted in some countries that these kids were being born with like extra limbs and stuff, and it was like, well, that's evolution, but like that's like a mutation, so you had like these really quick mutated genes that were like having kids born with extra legs or extra whatever things in the body from like the polluted world that we've created. So then you had natural evolution. Now you have like man-made mutations. And as like autism was rising, you would have kids who were born neurotypical, and then but like due to like technology, due to like the excess amount of phones and TVs and all these stimulants 24/7. And when I was a server, you would go to a restaurant and you see kids. You would ask like an 8-year-old what they wanted, and they were just buried into the phone. And then you have this. Then you have these kids who don't know how to really talk to people. They don't know how to ask for what they want. They don't know how to say like please and thank you. They don't really know how to interact with other humans. And then like there's something called like technology-induced autism. It's when these kids from those vital ages where you learn how to deal with other humans, you learn how to interact with other humans. You never go through that, right? And you never like there's certain ages in a kid's life where if you want to be able to function with other people, you have to hit these certain ages. Like you have to hit between 4, 6, 7, 8. You got to learn how to talk to people, and if you don't, for whatever reason, you become almost like a hermit. You become very introverted. So you have something called like technology-induced autism, whereas like these kids had autistic like symptoms, but without like the genetic coding of someone with autism. So then I started thinking to myself, well, what is this? Like, it's almost like in order to live in this world, you have to have this biological capability to just shut the world off, to live in this world in a healthy manner. I can live in this world, probably not the most healthiest. Anxiety's on the rise, depression's on the rise, suicide's on the rise. And it's almost like the best way to live in this world, is to just have to force yourself to go quiet and force yourself to be in isolation, and get away from this world. And I was like, autism is on the rise. Maybe autism was like the next evolutional adaptation of the human beings, of the human race, and maybe that's what it was, and that's what we're leading to. All these neurotypical people are hyperactive all the time and suffering from all these mental disorders because of the way that we have produced all this technology. And it's like getting a battery and just it's like having a battery pack and you fill it up and then like the acid starts like oozing from the top. Like you put too much into it, and us people, we have too much into our brains. Our brains are just constantly attacked by stimulus. But then you have these kids who have autism where they just can't. They just can't be overly active. They just can't be because they biologically they're just shut off from it, you know. And I was so confused, and I told her about it, and she didn't like completely deny it, but it's really hard to say without sounding offensive. So that was the kind of like my view on, not my view on autism, but I guess of just a radical theory I had, just something that I thought of that didn't really have a ending to it, didn't really have a purpose too much of it, but just a thought that came into my head. And then I found myself just not really knowing the science behind it. Not even the science, because I don't really want to know the science, because I don't think, I mean, I want to know the science, like I probably will read about the science of it, but I just want to know the history of it, you know? So I pick up this book called NeuroTribes, which is New York Times best winner, best-selling book. And as I'm reading it, my mind is just shocked. You know, I'm just kind of, as I'm learning about it, you learn about the scientists who've had autism. You're learning about the philosophers, the greatest minds of our world, of our generation, and and all the other ones before us who had autism. Like, you almost think of it as like a 21st century genetic makeup, I guess, disorder or mutation. But it wasn't. It's something that's been going on forever, you know, and but just in different ways. And as you're reading it, there's some great moments in it. But then there's some moments where you're reading and it's just brutal, like the way that people on the spectrum, and then people with Down syndrome, and people who were mutes, and people who were deaf, and just anybody who was not like a, I guess, quote unquote healthy individual, just the way that they were treated in the history of humankind. Starting, I mean, way back, but this book really started with the Nazis, man. The way the Nazis dealt with these people who had some type of disorder. It was brutal, and I highly recommend the book to just, and I think it's so important to really learn about this stuff, and to really understand the history of anything and everything, and like the way that these hospitals, quote unquote hospitals, back in Vienna, Austria, and they were just rounding up these kids with mental disabilities and mental capacity disorders, and the parents were introducing these kids because, you know, the Nazis convinced the parents that if your kid has this and this and this, they're like a devil, like they're evil, and you can't have them around. They're it's almost like they're not even your kid. Your kid has been taken over by this disorder. And the way autism works is you really don't even realize your kid's on the spectrum until a certain age. So for them, it was just like out of nowhere, they just had it, you know? But the way that they were just rounding and it's disgusting, but it's just what happened. The way they just rounded these kids up and just put them in like these eugenic, quote unquote, programs, and sterilized these kids, sterilized the parents, killed the kids, injected the kids, drugged them with every type of drug you can think of. LSD, they used LSD on these kids, shot and killed these kids, put them outside like dogs, and just let them freeze to death, let them develop pneumonia, and just had these kids who, you know, who couldn't defend themselves verbally, who couldn't speak for themselves. And you had these doctors, quote unquote doctors, saving the world. And what they were doing is they were purifying the race of the German Nazis. You know, they were getting rid of anybody that wasn't healthy, quote unquote healthy. And you know, and as I'm reading this, I almost want to stop because it's so hard to read, but it's so important to read. You know, they would these parents would come drop their kids off because they were convinced from all the propaganda that in order to survive in this world, you needed a pure race. Like, did you want your race? Did you want your people to die out? If you did, then you would keep your kids alive, or you can give your kids away to us and we'll fix them for you. And they always ended up just killing these kids. They sterilized the parents, man. And if you're an adult, they would sterilize you and then kill you. You know. And it's just so hard to imagine that even up until the late 90s, early 2000s that these kids with autism were treated like they could be cured, and by doing like that's a good thing, right? But you almost like dehumanize them, by almost convincing yourself you can fix these kids. Well, you can't. And by always trying to get rid of their specialty characteristics, you're dehumanizing them, and you're not allowing them to find a place in society. But it was so interesting to listen to, and all these brutal things that happened, but at the same time, all these just horrible and horrendous things that the Nazis did to them. It taught us, and it sucks, but it taught us so much about autism. We learned so much about it, and not just autism, but Asperger's, and not just Asperger's, but Down syndrome. And you can look it up if you just like Google any mental state hospital during the 1930s. You'll see these pictures of just these, just fucking. I mean, basically, there were concentration camps, but in hospitals, and they were just gathering Jews up and the mentally handicapped people and just throwing them in these mental hospitals. And what they were doing is they were giving these kids LSD and shit, because a really common thing for kids is like 1 in 3 kids. When I say kids, I just mean people. It's like 1 in 3 people who have Asperger's or have autism they suffer from seizures. So they would have seizures. They're epileptic. They had epilepsy, I mean. And they didn't know anything about seizures, so they thought it was like the devil, or like just your kid was like a monster. So what they do is they would give these kids LSD, which would suppress the seizures, but it would give them really bad seizures, like once every month instead of like once every week or every day. And they would just keep on pushing LSD and LSD and LSD on these kids, and these kids would eventually die. They would go into psychosis and die, or they would completely lose their mind and end up slamming their head against the wall, or ended up killing themselves, And it was just so hard to hear. And like the worst ones to hear were like the stories where they would just put these kids outside during like these cold Austrian winters, and I don't think it happened in Berlin. I think it was in Vienna, because they took this university and they changed the entire university into a university to learn about how to kill races. Within like a year, the whole Vienna University was like a real college learning about real sciences, and then within a year they just overtook it, and it became a college on how to kill and how to be efficient racist people. And like one of the leading professors there was a gentleman, I forget his name, but he had the way that they would learn about the human body, and they learned about it really well, is they would take Jews and kill them and then study their organs, or as they were alive, they would study their bodies as they were alive on the table. Just fucking brutal things. And this book just explains all of it. And then so as you're reading it, it's like during the 1910s, 20s, 30s, and 40s, and it wasn't even up until like 2010, really, where we finally got to a place where we're starting to accept these people who are on the spectrum for just treating them like people, and it's like, that's why I read this book, because I really wanted to learn about it. I want to learn about the history of it. And it's brutal, and it hurts just to read, and you don't want to hear about it, and it makes you sad. But I think it's important to know your history. I think it's important to study history. I think it's important to study things like that. I mean, I can't even imagine like how the world had to be for these kids. Just, you're so confused, and the parents. You could sit back and say these parents are fucking evil for killing their kids, but like, dude, they didn't know better. Like, no one knew better, and all anybody knew is that if you like kept these kids alive, there's bad luck for your family. Your family was gonna fall apart. You were evil. The propaganda was so strong, and I'm sure if you didn't listen to the government, they were gonna kill you and your family anyways. But they would like stick these kids out there and just let them get pneumonia, and they would die of pneumonia, And then they didn't make the parents pay for it, but what they would do is they would send a letter back to the parents saying your kid died of pneumonia. Here's a bill for the burial or the cremation or the death certificate. It's just, fuck, man. It's just brutal. I mean, even up until the late 90s and early 2000s, there was doctors out there trying to make $1 off of kids with autism, saying, oh, you can get rid of it by doing this and this and this therapy and this therapy. And, it's because of bad parenting and overly critical parents. So the reason why your kids have autism. But none of it was true. None of it was true. And like all these diets because of mercury in the brain and this and this and this. And it's like, it's so sad because instead of trying to really make these kids feel like they're part of something special, instead of trying to make these kids feel like they're not, giving them a sense of belonging and allowing them to, if they love something, instead of trying to push them away from that because you don't want to be disappointed. You don't want to feel like you're disappointing in society because your kid is obsessed with Legos or obsessed with astrology or astronomy or math because, whatever these insecurities you have, and it's like for so long, and trust me, I'm not a parent, so I don't know what it feels like, and I don't have autism. I know people that do, but instead of having your kid just be successful in that specific category, you would rather try to get rid of it, and it was hard to read, but it's an interesting read, and I highly recommend it to everybody to read. And get yourself a Christmas gift. Go buy it. Go read it. It's really good. I'm almost halfway done, but if one other thing, and I'll go ahead and I'll end the podcast a little early today, just because I got to finish up a little bit more Christmas shopping. There was Nikola Tesla. Him, I think one of his prodigies, or not prodigies, but one of the guys that he mentored, I think it was either the kid he mentored or it was Nikola Tesla himself. They developed this magazine that basically essentially led to like this following of science fiction, the creation of science fiction, and which led to all these like different groups of people who had these ideas about future technology and aliens and rescuing women and all these like spaceships and flying here and flying there and all these things that were very nerdy per se and were very ahead of its time. And all these magazines were being printed and printed and printed. And this was like the creation of acceptance for people or a sense of belonging for people who were on the spectrum, especially for people with Asperger's, because a lot of people with Asperger's, they have a keen they love, a lot of them very much enjoy the logical fields of thinking, so math, science, space, anything like numbers, anything with patterns rather than like creative and art and stuff like that. And obviously there's a sect of that, but so all this like science fiction, like this future science stuff and all these ideas, they were popular. They're in magazines and they're being shipped all around the world. And it finally was a moment for these kids to feel accepted because, there was clubs, and instead of now that you were getting bullied all day at school because you were into this stuff, you could come home. And when you came home, there was your magazine with this club in it, and there's people just like you, and it gave all these people like a sense of belonging. And I thought it was really cool. It made me really happy, and it made me feel really good about the world, and it made me feel good about people. But yeah. So I kind of been like on this autism kick lately. I've just really been reading a lot about it, and I've been enjoying it. I enjoy listening about it. I enjoyed learning things I don't know about, because I hate the idea that I don't like feeling dumb, and I don't like the idea that I don't know anything. I want to know a little bit about everything. I don't want to know a lot where I'm like an expert, because then that means in my head I don't know about other things. But I want to be able to have a little conversation with every single person I meet ever, and I want the only reason why I can't is to be a language barrier. And even at that point, I want to still have a conversation with somebody just by looking at them and understanding their emotions. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the podcast. I hope you guys have a good time with your family. I hope you guys have a good time with your loved ones, and I hope you guys enjoy your Christmas. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. This is episode 51. I'm enjoying it. I love it. I might be putting ads on it soon, so hopefully you guys don't get too mad about that. But the only reason why I'm doing that is so I can make a little bit of money, so I can invest back into it, and I can make it better and better and better. I want to interact more with everybody. Maybe like phone calls, or I don't know, like DMs, or you guys have questions and I answer your questions for you on the podcast. But I'll see you guys before New Year's Eve. I'll talk to everybody, and I hope you guys just remember what this holiday's for. Remember the importance of it. Just be a good person. Hang out with your family. Tell people that you don't talk to them much, that you love them, that you care about them, that you're thinking about them, because you never know. Sometimes that's all people need. Sometimes people just need to be heard. Sometimes people just need to be welcomed. Sometimes people just need to be hugged. And, I think if you're listening to this, you're a great person. And I think you are allowed to feel like you're allowed to be vulnerable and be there for people, because people are there for you. And you know how great it is when someone's there for you. So be the same for somebody else. But it's been real. It's been me, my little Santa Claus here, my little Santa Claus hat to add a little Christmas spirit to the show. My little chimpanzees, my aliens, my brains, my cacti, and my rock. But thank you guys so much for listening. Shout out to Brian. I miss you, man. I hope Chicago's treating you well. I love you, man. I miss our pizza dates at the gym. But yeah, guys, I'm going to catch you guys later. Enjoy your holidays. I'll catch you guys after Christmas on episode 52. See ya.